they're just avid country music fans, you know. I love them. They're great.
I'm very adamant on how I feel about country music, and I don't care who knows it. I'll tell the world.
The neon sign above the Swinging Door Saloon flickers like a dare, throwing crimson flashes across rain-slick asphalt and challenging every dreamer who drifts inside to leave with pride intact. On an electric summer night in 1974, Billie Jo Spears lost that gamble, swapping her rhinestone grin for the bottomless echo of a county cell after a beer-fueled brawl that sent barstools skittering like startled cattle. Regulars swear her raspy holler still ricochets in the rafters, proof that a chart-topping voice can shatter more than hearts when whiskey turns up the volume. Gene Shepard matched that fire a decade earlier while closing a roadhouse in Tulsa. A loudmouth stranger, emboldened by cheap lager, sneered at her Oklahoma drawl and called her just another girl singer. Shepard flattened him with one clean punch, her sequined sleeve flashing like a comet. Officers arrived to find her humming harmonies in the parking lot, wrists already extended. She spent the night composing a new bridge between concrete walls, the bruise on the heckler's jaw providing the downbeat for her next encore. Rose Maddox crowned her reputation backstage at the Louisiana Hayride after a rival fiddler hurled a slur at her brother. Rose slapped him so hard his bow bounced across the straw-dusted floor, sending half the band scrambling for cover. 8 hours in the parish lockup could not dampen her fury, yet it convinced station managers that her temper sold tickets. The following Saturday, the marquee carried her name in letters tall enough for truckers to read through diesel haze. Sometimes the clang of a cell door rang like a protest bell. Under low amber streetlights during a 1968 Nashville march, a wide-eyed Barbara Mandrell linked arms with union stagehands demanding fair wages. Troopers swept the sidewalk and mistook the petite guitarist for a college agitator, shoving her into the back of a paddy wagon. Years later, she confessed the cuffs bit deeper than any steel guitar lick, but the booking officer still asked whether she was one of those folk singers. Kitty Wells, decades older, faced an even harsher test. One humid Alabama evening, she refused to leave a segregated auditorium after management tried to push black patrons toward the rear exit. Police escorted her away while the house fell silent. The hush felt louder than any encore. She slept on a wooden bench in a sweltering cell, vows of solidarity rattling louder than the ceiling fan. Long after dawn, she quietly funded scholarships for young musicians of color, proving the sweetest voice can also swing the heaviest hammer. Jessie Coulter absorbed a similar lesson when state troopers dragged her from the Arizona Capitol steps during a musicians' rights rally. Cameras flashed, Waylon Jennings shouted himself hoarse, and a black and white photo of her tangled hair against riot helmets became dorm room decor for an entire generation that preferred its heroes unpolished. Freedom grows complicated when love becomes war. Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter with dynamite in her lungs, once warned, "He never hit me one time, I didn't hit him back twice." One muggy midnight in Butcher Holler, neighbors heard skillet clangs, shouts, and sirens. Loretta spent the night crooning lullabies to herself in a cramped Kentucky cell, emerging at sunrise to sign an autograph on a deputy's pocket Bible. She later hung that dented skillet in her museum beside platinum records, proof that toughness and tenderness sometimes share a kitchen drawer. Tammy Wynette's turmoil spiraled even further down Music Row. A violent domestic dispute sent her to lock up bruised and silent. The next morning, she stunned reporters by claiming she'd been kidnapped by masked men. The strange tale still fuels talk radio debates, each host convinced they alone know the hidden ending. Whatever the truth, Tammy's shaky press conference tears sold more vinyl than any polished commercial. June Carter Cash's brush with the law remains fogged by conflicting memories. Some say the arrest occurred during a routine traffic stop gone sideways. Others whisper about tablets tucked beneath cracked leather seats. June turned the moment into backstage comedy, telling nervous deputies, "Sugar, even the good Lord spent a little time among sinners." The line earned roars of laughter and a lighter sentence, then migrated onto thousands of novelty t-shirts at truck stop racks. Rebellion of another flavor trailed Tanya Tucker through the late 70s. One week it was a barroom dust-up over an unpaid tab, the next a possession charge when deputies discovered suspicious powder inside her guitar case. She left every courthouse wearing snakeskin boots and a grin sharp enough to cut headlines. Her mugshots now hang framed in her office, trophies of survival lining the walls beside platinum discs. Skeeter Davis, whose voice could sweeten thunder, startled fans when officers found her weaving down Broadway, bottle in hand, muttering half-finished lyrics between giggles. Public intoxication almost cost her cherished spot at the Grand Ole Opry, but thousands of handwritten letters flooded management until she returned in triumph, tears glittering beneath the house lights as she sang of redemption rather than regret. Bonnie Owens, twice married and twice burned, met her reckoning in Bakersfield after a rowdy celebration of a friend's divorce. Charged with public drunkenness, she scrawled verses on her booking sheet that later became a gospel chorus still belted by storefront choirs on Sunday mornings. The sheriff admitted arresting her felt like handcuffing the moon. Money can scream louder than any Telecaster. Dottie West, drowning in failed restaurants, glittering outfits, and relentless tour bills, ignored bankruptcy summons until marshals knocked. Her stint behind bars inspired tabloids to label her Country Cinderella in chains. Fans mailed envelopes stuffed with spare change, and she responded to each with a thank you note penned on orange jail stationery. Connie Smith's anger exploded on a lonely Tennessee highway when a reckless driver sideswiped her tour van. She chased him down, cut him off, and delivered a stinging slap heard across the asphalt. Officers booked her for assault. She later toured high schools lecturing on road rage between gospel numbers. Leona Williams's hardest lesson arrived on a moonless Missouri night when a deputy clocked her weaving sedan. The DUI spiraled after she resisted arrest, earning community service plus an ignition lock she later installed on her tour bus as a rolling reminder to every young singer that humility is a better security system than any breathalyzer. Every clang of steel sparked a fresh melody. Spears refined a comeback chorus on a napkin in holding. Shepherd's Punch turned into sold-out dance halls. Mandrell spliced footage of her labor march into primetime variety sketches, sneaking civil rights truths into suburban living rooms. Wells financed quiet revolutions through scholarship funds. Coulter's arrest photo appeared beside revolutionary silhouettes on college walls. Lynn's skillet display anchors a museum wing titled Love Shouldn't Hurt. Some secrets remained buried until the digital age. Archivists digitized Wells's arrest file, and teenagers transformed her vintage twang into protest remixes that dominated playlists. Dottie West's second act notebook surfaced at auction and now anchors music business seminars. Tanya Tucker's case files power a binge-worthy streaming series that rocketed her back onto festival stages. Tammy Wynette's alleged abduction drives entire podcast seasons, each fresh theory nudging her catalog higher on modern charts. Country music was never polished marble. It was clapboard churches, train yard echoes, neon bar lights, whispered devotion, shouted betrayal, and the slam of iron doors. These 15 women engraved their names on that steel rail, bending its cold metal into melody. A song without scars is merely sound. Harmony forged in fire rings longer, louder, truer. Picture a lone spotlight cutting through cigarette haze in a crossroads theater. A hopeful singer steps forward, guitar gleaming like a pocket knife. Before the first chord, she murmurs, "Tonight every note owes a debt to 15 queens who traded rhinestones for stripes and still shone like dawn." The crowd hushes. In that breath hangs every slap, march, skillet swing, police radio squawk, and midnight these women endured. She strums an open chord and the rafters vibrate with lineage. Which arrest etches deepest, the saloon fight splashing beer across pine boards, the dignified refusal to abandon a segregated audience, the alleyway domestic clash that sent a queen to county, The protest selfie coughing smoke, or the dusty highway stop rewriting a life? Perhaps the answer is all of them, braided into a harmony as rough and perfect as barbed wire humming in prairie wind. Somewhere tonight, a beginner tunes her guitar a half step down, scrolling through grainy mugshots for courage. She realizes a booking photo isn't a coffin. It can be the opening slide of a comeback montage. Phantom cuffs circle her wrists, and still she decides the price is worth the chorus. Billie Jo never again entered a honky-tonk without scanning for flying glass, yet she never ducked a fight for fairness. Jean Shepherd kissed her knuckles before every encore, whispering, "Remember the punch that paid the rent." Rose Maddox mounted her rival's broken bow over the fireplace like a warning carved in cedar. Barbara Mandrell hides a tiny Polaroid of the paddy wagon behind her Grammy display and tells guests, "Every trophy needs a shadow." Kitty Wells sends holiday cards to each scholarship graduate, envelopes scented with dust and dreams. Jessie Coulter names her rescue mare Riot, trotting the desert at dawn to remember helmets and chants. Loretta Lynn's museum receives thousands of letters from survivors of violence. Volunteers pin the hopeful ones under the heading "Coal Miners' Grandkids Speak." Tammy Wynette's mansion features a velvet-roped hallway looping her conflicting interviews, daring tourists to assemble truth from echo. June Carter Cash's courtroom quip funds lullaby programs for incarcerated mothers. Tiny hands press against mesh fences while her voice drifts above razor wire. Tanya Tucker hosts songwriting camps where rookies belt verses about their worst mistake. Disco lights scavenged from thrift stores spinning forgiveness across plywood stages. Bonnie Owens's cell block hymn crosses oceans and languages. Lagos street choirs shout its final line, "Grace blooms even on concrete." Dottie West's pencil-scratched budget mantra, "Music remains free," hangs taped beside vending machines at indie labels. Connie Smith's road rage seminar still screens at truck stop theaters, and Leona Williams urges bar owners to stock pitchers of water on stage because clarity saves more lives than glamour ever will. New artists once shrugged at these tales, then dug into archival footage. Hip-hop producers sample Kitty's steadfast verse beneath crunchy drums, indie duos layer Skeeter's tremble over crackly vinyl, and hologram duets stitch Loretta's Skillet song to Tanya's courtroom ballad. Executives now frame outlaw histories as authenticity badges, marketing limited box sets with replica booking forms. Collectors display miniature iron bars beside platinum plaques, yet the deeper gift remains intangible, a roadmap through chaos. Rookies ease stage panic by recalling Skeeter's calm composure. Guitarists drowning in debt reread Dottie's ledger. Songwriters debating a protest verse remember Barbara's cuffed smile behind a primetime camera. There is a bar south of Memphis called Second Verse that toasts one outlaw queen every Saturday at midnight. Patrons raise chipped jars while a local band covers a random hit. 15 empty frames hang waiting for modern successors. A rumor claims a current superstar carried Kitty's mugshot photocopy into a label meeting. When the executives balked at her protest single, she slid the worn image across the mahogany and said, "She kept her seat on stage. I'll keep mine on this roster." The track reached #1 on 7 charts, proof Defiance can still crack the algorithm. These stories never glamorize reckless choices, nor do they excuse the hurt inflicted. They chronicle fallout and the furious labor of redemption. They insist that art shaped by flame glows hotter than art, born of complacency, and that recovery is built verse by verse, apology by apology, harmony by harmony. As the credits roll on the endless film of country lore, our outlaw queens lean against the fence of memory, boots dusty, eyes bright. They wave us forward, inviting every bruised heart onto the same bumpy stage. Pick up the dented guitar, strum despite the tremor, sing through the shame. Somewhere, idling at a red light, a listener will hear your raw note, feel less alone, and roll the window down to chase whatever freedom still flickers beyond the horizon. History never fully sands the edges off legends. In a dusty Fort Worth file drawer, Billie Jo Spears appears under disturbance, excessive singing after hours. The arresting officer wrote that she serenaded the entire cell block with improvised verses about bail until the sergeant tapped his boots. That yellowed form now hangs at the Country Music Hall, proof a voice can pry applause from concrete. Travel east to Muskogee, where Gene Shepard's booking card rests beside confiscated switchblades. A deputy scrawled, "Suspect taught harmony to staff." Those deputies later formed a weekend trio still playing county fairs, proud of their accidental tutor. Charisma, Shepard teaches, turns stone walls into rehearsal halls. A warehouse in Shreveport stores Rose Maddox's shattered violin bow. Curators debated displaying it until Rose mailed a note. Real art carries splinters. Visitors lean close, imagining the crack that shook the circuit. Barbara Mandrell's paddy wagon Polaroid became an underground trading card. Roadies taped photocopies to soundboards as a reminder that activism belongs on stage too. Mandrell keeps a laminated copy in her guitar case, calling it her Union Badge of the Soul. Kitty Wells's defiance sparked a ripple no chart could track. A young busboy who watched her arrest bought a thrift guitar next day, practiced behind the diner, and scored a hit 3 decades later. During his Hall of Fame speech, he thanked the day courage wore pearls. Jesse Coulter's arrest photo morphed into campus fashion when Arizona art students silk-screened it on thrift jackets with the slogan, "Harmony needs dissonance." Alumni now in boardrooms still wear those tattered sleeves on weekends, proof rebellion ages well. Loretta Lynn's skillet toured Europe in an exhibit titled Domestic Armor. Visitors scribbled reflections about hurt and healing, which Loretta shaped into a ballad whispering, "Forgiveness cooks slow." Tammy Wynette's disputed kidnapping fueled mimeographed fanzines long before blogs. Students wrote noir tales of Tammy escaping crooked managers through backstage tunnels. She kept copies backstage, pilfering plot twists for stage banter, happy to let myth pay the rent. June Carter Cash's traffic stop cruiser sits at a roadside attraction between Memphis and Nashville. Tourists pose in replica cuffs beside a sign quoting June's joke, "Living proof humor can jailbreak shame faster than any lawyer." Tanya Tucker lends her snakeskin mugshots to an anti-substance tour called Strike a Chord, Not a Cop Car. Students rewrite one of her hits with their own hard confessions, turning gymnasiums into choir lofts where melody replaces detention. Skeeter Davis's Stumble inspired the Parking Garage Challenge. Young singers post late-night videos of End of the World, echoing against concrete. Converting loneliness into pop-up harmony heard from apartment balconies, Bonnie Owens's hymn Born on Jail Stationery resurfaced during a hurricane telethon, raising millions as gospel choirs looped its hopeful refrain. Somewhere a woman who once slept on a hard cot probably smiled at blankets packed by volunteers humming her tune. Dottie West's Orange Thank You Notes sparked a nonprofit that pairs released musicians with financial mentors. Each new mentee receives a replica of her letterhead plus budgeting worksheets, turning empathy into spreadsheets. Connie Smith's road rage lecture grew into a podcast called Two Hands on the Wheel, blending scripture, safe driving tips, and acoustic breaks. A long-haul driver wrote that her episode kept him awake through a blizzard, music literally steering his rig home. Leona Williams's Ignition Lock tour bus parks at state fairs where kids press buttons that play stories about sobriety. They exit with temporary tattoos reading, "Breathe, then sing." Proof educational messages can ride shotgun with funnel cakes. All these ripples show a single arrest can broadcast for decades, composting shame into art, policy, and second chances. A gavel's bang doesn't end the tune, it modulates the key, inviting fresh voices to solo over the groove. The cycle continues. At a songwriting retreat in 2024, rising star Marisol Reyes drew a prompt that read, "Locked Door." She grinned, recalled these queens, and hammered out a stomping anthem in 30 minutes. The chorus name-checks Loretta's skillet, Tammy's phantom masks, and Rose's splinter bow, tying rebellion to rhythm with a hook radio cannot ignore. Insiders whisper the single will reshape modern country, not by glorifying trouble, but by showing scars as sources of light. When interviewers asked what inspired her spark, she simply pointed to a collage of faded mugshots taped to her notebook. She ended the interview by flashing a tiny tattoo that reads, "Jail Taught Melody," then strummed the opening chord.